The White House is issuing a stark warning to Israel over the devastating airstrike on Rafah. Now, of course, we've been following this since before all of this was happening. Again, happy Memorial Day today. There's a lot of debate about what they did and if it was right or not. We're not here to take a side on this, but really to cover what this is and what the responses could be and the backlash that could actually come from it. Today, we're not only going to talk about the strike that happened, which is causing turmoil, we're also going to talk about North Korea, Iran, everything that's happening with Russia, and of course, even more than that. So by 8 o'clock, by 9 o'clock, you should be out of here with all of the current events. Of course, all of the craziness happening right now with the strike, and Israel is arguing that they actually took out two of the Hamas commanders. The White House on Monday issued a warning to Israel over the airstrike that took out the lives of dozens of people in a camp of displaced Palestinians in Rafah. The devastating images following an IDF strike in Rafah last night that, of course, took lives of innocent people and was heartbreaking, a spokesperson for President JB's National Security Council said. Israel has the right to go after Hamas, and we understand this strike took out two senior Hamas terrorists who are responsible for the attacks against Israel civilians. But as we've been clear, Israel must take every precaution possible to protect civilians. We are actively engaging the IDF and partners on the ground to assess what happened and understand that the IDF is conducting an investigation. They're basically investigating themselves, right? Now, regardless of what side you are supporting, or if you support both, or you just support people not, perishing for whatever reason, this is going to be a huge deal as far as what is happening here. They struck an area in Rafah really bad, according to them. And of course, this is what they're telling the public all around the world. There's already been protests around the world globally for the last few months. Is this going to push something over the edge, or at least are we going to be told that that is why something happens and this is the reason for that event? So we're going to talk about this and much, much more. So stick around. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It's Adam A.K. Marf, and remember, you can always go to our website and find every single article, tweet, video, picture, document. All you have to do is look for today's thumbnail. When you go to that and click it, you will have every single article, tweet, video, picture, document we're going to show you here today and have the sources for such documents. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Fugel fam. I'm doing just fine.
So Dex is a little bit under the weather. I felt like I'm starting to lose my voice, not all of a sudden.
I think I sound worse than I feel, but yeah, I hear you, brother.
Me too. Yeah. But we're states away. I actually, over the Memorial Day weekend, I actually ended up going down to something called Folk Life here in Seattle. And that's where I obviously met a lot of people and friends that I've known for a very long time. So, but I think that maybe I caught something from one of them. But it was a very, very cool event. It's a lot different, I will say. My kids wanted to get their faces painted, and to go to an ATM, I went around there, and I've been going there for like 30 years. All of a sudden, they have removed almost every single ATM from the entire Science Center area, the entire place. I had to walk like 2 miles to go to get money to get my kids' faces painted, because the woman, she didn't have credit cards. She was just somebody doing face painting for friends and stuff. So it was just nuts. And I could not believe that for as long as I can remember, there was vestibules all over the place. Now they have taken those out. What does that say? It's more signs that they are literally trying to get rid of all sorts of cash, especially somewhere at the Science Center. If you're in another city that's like this, it's like, if there's a big festival in your city, this is a free one that anybody and everybody can go to. There's booths of people that set up there, kind of like a flea market type of thing. They all set up their tents, but it's a huge event, and people spend a lot of money to set up there. Well, now they can't sell stuff cash. I mean, like, that's basically how it is. If customers can't go get cash, then they can't pay you in cash. That's crazy, especially down there for how many events they do, like Bumper Shoot and all these other events. I'm like, how the heck do they not have cash machines? And it is purposeful. There were like huge building 4-sided vestibules all over the place down there of every bank you could think of. They're all gone. So it is very purposeful that they're doing this. Obviously, we all know that over CV and all of that, it's like they took out they took out regular checkouts and then had, 40 credit card machines, but 1 cash. It's like they've slowly been turning us over to this. So I just thought it was really crazy. Had to walk like 2 miles to get to a machine in one of the most popular tourist spaces in the whole, all of Seattle. So, I mean, like that says a lot. I don't know if my state is any worse than any of yours, but it was kind of like how I felt about the phone booths. Like, now there is no phone booths, and I've been left without a cell phone once or twice at least in the last year, and it would have been nice to have a payphone, but of course they don't have it because they don't want you having cash or anything. Anyways, I digress. That was my rant for this weekend. And then as far as what is happening with this, we're looking at what the response is going to be. And the response very well could be protests all over the world. As far as how the media portrays it is really how people are going to take it. As far as, if you think about it, whatever the main public does around the world is going to rely on what the MSM is actually covering. So depending on how they word this over the next couple of days and what else happens, it could either exacerbate it or minimize it. It depends on how they cover it. So this is something that, lines up with all of the other warnings and the threats that we're going through right now. And then all of the other countries. If you've watched this show, then you know that all of these other countries are lining up for a war. They're all lining up against their neighbors. So I guess we will see. Dex, as far as this strike, it took out 2 of their commanders, according to Israel. That's a pretty big deal, but at the same time, it's not going to be looked at positively by a good chunk of the world.
No, the subsequent explosion and the fire it caused, perished 45 innocent people, as they're claiming, and they admitted to it as such, and that's why they're investigating. But this is also coming while the ICC is hot on the heels for Netanyahu for war crimes. So, to what extent would this add to that? To what extent will this change public opinion across the world, like you say, or fuel the division that's going on around this conflict?
Yeah, it's going to be a craziness all over. All right, and then Dex, could you cover neighbors condemn North Korea launch that ends in midair fireball?
Yeah, wow. So North Korea, or Kim, has launched Monday night, which I know it's Monday night here, but Monday night there is the other side of the date line. So kind of like last night, launched a satellite. They said it was a reconnaissance satellite, and it went over, the typical area there near Japan and obviously near South Korea. And as it went up, it exploded into a fireball. And so obviously it failed its launch, and the launch of the Amalgam 11 reconnaissance satellite, quote, exploded in the air during the first flight and failed to launch, North Korea's space agency said in a statement carried by the state media, adding that the, quote, cause of the accident was the reliability of a newly developed liquid oxygen and oil engine. Of course, the launch itself caused everybody to be on alert. Of course, they then lowered the alerts when they realized what was going on, but at the same time, there was this giant fireball in the sky that was also worrisome after many of the fragments were detected. Obviously, I think they said they detected much of it in North Korean waters, and they were analyzing whether it had an operational flight. That's the U.S. and South Korea chimed in saying that they were trying to investigate as much as they could as well. So, again, we've got a lot of things launching from North Korea. We've seen them try to go to space with satellites before. They've had a failed, then they had a success. Now another failure.
Yeah, was it sabotage, or was it just them not doing it right? I wonder what this satellite was. Obviously, a lot of people have been questioning what they're actually launching. They have at least one satellite that floats above the U.S. and is purposely like right over the center of our country. So people have been wondering about, what is actually being launched. As far as they're getting help from Russia and from China, there's ships that have been going from China to then North Korea, then to Russia. So who knows what kind of stuff that they are shipping between each other. That was the Malayong-11 reconnaissance satellite that failed and had as Elon would call it, a slight anomaly. And then JB administration presses allies not to confront Iran on the nuclear program. The JB administration, of course, is pushing everyone in a solid direction. They said, is pressing European allies to back off plans to rebuke Iran for advances in its nuclear program, even as it expands its stockpile and near weapons-grade fissile material to a record level, according to diplomats involved in discussions. The U.S. is arguing against an effort by Britain and France to censure Iran at the International Atomic Agency's member state board in early June. The diplomat said the U.S. has pressed a number of other countries to abstain in the censure vote, saying that it is what Washington will do, they said. U.S. officials deny lobbying against a resolution. The differences are emerging as Western officials concerned have deepened about Iran's nuclear activities. On Monday, the UN Atomic Energy Agency reported that Iran's stockpile of 60% highly enriched uranium rose 20 kilograms to 142.1 kilograms as of May 11th from 3 months earlier. The U.S. officials say the material could be converted into weapons-grade enriched uranium in a matter of days. It would then be enough to fuel 3 nuclear weapons. U.S. officials say that they fear Iran could be more volatile as the country moves towards elections in the new leader after the perishing of President Ibrahim Raisi, who, of course, died in that super, super not sketchy at all helicopter crash where, they literally lost their president in a weather event, which is pretty crazy. In a crappy helicopter that they said may have been due to sanctions and not being able to get proper parts. Really pretty stupid. I don't believe it. Did you guys believe the whole story about the president? Either way, I think that there's big moves being made. They specifically say 3 nuclear weapons. They always say a different number. They always say, they're capable of making 12, or they're in 12 months, they'll be able to make at least 1.2 weapons, and in 18 months, they'll be able to do this. Well, now they have actually recorded the amount of stuff they have and say that they could actually make these 3 weapons. Is this the setup for some sort of huge, crazy op? I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Dex, go ahead.
It's kind of odd. Like, why is the U.S. saying, "Oh, guys, back off of them and let them move forward"? I mean, on one hand, they're saying they're trying to not if they were to censure Iran, it would cause volatility. But what's worse, like letting them get a nuke? So we're basically saying, "Hey, let them have a nuke by backing off." The signals just don't make a lot of sense right now, especially. And then, of course, they're backpedaling, saying, "Well, we didn't really say that." Even though they were pushing it. At least that's what's being reported by the other diplomats. Are saying, no, the U.S. is telling us not to push on this.
Well, it's like piss them off without a nuke, or keep them happy with 3 nukes. That doesn't make too much sense. I could tell you that there's probably going to be comments from our former prez about this. Like, this sounds pretty crazy. This sounds like the opposite of what he said in public comments just a few months ago about the whole situation. It seems like does it seem like to you that there's almost somebody on the inside just pushing against anything that would prevent war? I think that
it
the
does
war
to me.
Yeah, like they're literally telling them not to push back. They're telling them to back off a censure of something that would stop Iran from making nukes.
You're right. You're spot on. And look, Adam, if someone were to believe that all of this is orchestrated and that, they're a puppet state, and some people even say they're a puppet state for a 3-letter agency, even though they're aligned on the opposite side, then backing off of this allows them to get forward with what they need for, whatever puppet master there is, to have them then use that to cause a greater distraction or a greater conflict. And I don't know, this, no matter which way you look at this does not look good at all.
No, it's pretty bad. Now, what do you guys think is going on here? What do you think? Is there a theory you guys have on why they would do this? Is there something that we're missing here? Should they be telling them to back off? And of course they're going to deny it, but other countries and other people are saying that that's exactly what they're doing. So that makes it even more shady, because then they're actively saying, no, we didn't say that, instead of owning up to it. Before we move on, make sure to go check out, there's the Memorial Day sale, which, again, we don't do Saturday, Sundays, but you do have some time here as far as the Memorial Day sale that EMP Shield is running. You're actually going to get an extra 10% off on top of the $50 off discount that you get through us. If you don't know what an EMP Shield is, this can be easily wired into your vehicles, your trucks, motorcycles, boats, generators, even solar generator in the case of the Flex Tactical and the Flex 1500. And even your home and things like ham radios. This can be wired in, and it will ground the signal of an EMP strike or a Carrington level event from the sun in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your device. That way, if you have this on your vehicle and say you're at work 30 miles from home, you'll be able to drive home. And again, there's a lot of variables. Everybody goes, well, what if the freeways are stopped? Well, I would much rather have a car that runs than doesn't, depending on the situation, especially in that first few hours after a major disaster or SHTF. Heck, if you have to drive up on the sidewalk, that's what people might have to do in that instance. But you would much rather have a car that runs over one that doesn't. As far as the home version, I think that one's extremely helpful, especially for those that already have generators. If you wire this into your home, then it will protect everything within a normal size home, or about 250 linear feet, of everything that is plugged into the wall. That way you don't have to put your fridge in a Faraday box. You can just wire this into your home, and all of your appliances will be protected. People go, oh, well, the power's off for 2 years. Who cares? Well, that's why you have all of your stuff. It's not fried. Turn on your generators and then be able to plug in all of your stuff, and it's not permanently fried. So go over and check it out, marfooglenews.com/EMP. Make sure to use the code MARF. Again, that is marfooglenews.com/EMP, and make sure to use the code MARF. We're on our own. Again, we're up against behemoth news companies. We are not favored by the algo, and really, you guys are the only reason that we are that we're here. So we appreciate all of your support. The best thing you can do, though, and it's absolutely free, is just hit the subscribe button. Hit subscribe, share us with a friend or family member. The bigger that subscriber number gets, the easier it is for us to get guests. Other than that, we don't care about subscribers. Those are people. The more people that we have, that number helps us get better guests and people coming on. Again, I didn't know this until we tried to get a guest on our show, and they will only go on channels with over 1 million subscribers. That's probably 12 years out right now. So if you guys want to help us in that department, please just share us out with a friend or family member. All right, and then Baltic officials said that they could send troops to Ukraine without waiting for NATO if Russia scores a breakthrough. Dex, do you want to go over this?
We have been talking about what they have said with regards to the potential of them putting troops in. And now they're reiterating it. And they even came out this Sunday and said that the Baltic officials issued the warning while speaking with representatives for Berlin. And I think the idea now is that they're potentially saying, hey, we don't necessarily need NATO to tell us we can go in. We can go in on our own. And, when you think about the Baltic states, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, they're between Lithuania and Poland, they've got Kaliningrad right there. They've got Russia bordering them on the north. They've got Belarus right there up against Poland and the southern Baltic states there as well. So, they're worried. They're the ones that they think that if something is going to happen as far as Russia, reaching into any additional location besides a UKR, it's going to be them first. And I think a lot of people sort of look at that pinch move down to Kaliningrad as the obvious move. So I think that the idea that they have is, hey, if they're making serious gains in UKR, then we're going to go in and help, because we'd rather have the fighting stay there than come in to the north, which is the next potential move. And if this happens, it's interesting because they are NATO members. What would happen if they join in, even if they're doing it without NATO's approval, so to speak, right?
And as if everybody's talking about sending troops to Ukraine, well, it's just a matter of time. If the Ukraine war does not end, they only have so many people. After those people have perished and there's a memorial for those people, they're in a grave somewhere, then what else is there to do other than to either end the war, surrender, and then what happens? I mean, Russia just says Ukraine is ours now, or they say you can keep it, whatever else. I don't know. There's no other option other than others coming in. What else are they going to do? Is the rest of the world going to fund for them to pay for mercenaries to fight as regular soldiers? I mean, if mercenaries are extremely expensive, of course, they're already being hired, groups like a Wagner type group, but it's not a way to fight an entire war. You can't do that. So what do you think is going to happen after this? Otherwise, it's kind of good news in a way, because it's like, you would think after they run out of people, then the war will either be over. The world will be kind of at ease because something will be done, right? But that's not going to happen. The Lithuania, other places are already talking about going in. France is making comments. They want to be at the top. They want to kind of take the U.S.'s spot of this, like, oh, well, we'll go in there. We'll show them who's boss. They want to be kind of the USA of Europe. They're trying to, Macron at least is. So this is no good. And the whole thing with Russia and all of the comments of Kaliningrad and them talking about these different islands and expanding their borders and all of this, it's like, did people push Russia into doing this, or does Russia actually plan it? Either way, it doesn't look like it's going in a good direction. I mean, what is best case scenario? It's definitely not Russia winning, right? But it's also not Russia losing either, because if Russia loses, they'll get desperate and they'll use the reason why they're major powers. They'll do something big. So I don't see any other way that this wouldn't get other soldiers in. This is World War II playing out. Only different names, and the names have been changed to protect those inside the story. And then Baltic states join with Norway, Finland, and Poland to build a, quote, drone wall against Russia. The Baltic states announced plans alongside Norway, Finland, and Poland to construct a drone wall along their shared border with Russia on Sunday. Estonian Interior Minister Lauri Läänemets said that the technology is capable of both detecting and repelling drones, adding that his country plans to install the barrier along its entire eastern border, as well as its major cities. It says, quote, as we can see on the Ukrainian front, there is a constant technological race between adversaries and new ways to use drones in warfare. The same is true for the various drones that people have access to. Being even a small step ahead, the opponent leads to greater success. But this success can be measured in days as countermeasures are discovered with alarming speeds for each measure, and the cycle continues. There is no question whether this is necessary, or even the smallest drones have proven their worth as reconnaissance and offensive weapons. So it depends on how small you can get an explosive. The smaller and more powerful you can get an explosive, the more powerful a smaller drone would be. That's the crazy part about all of this. This has actually changed drones. One thing I thought about the other day when I was talking to somebody about how DJI is at risk of getting banned in the U.S. A lot of people that already basically invested in something before all this went down into a Mavic or to any of the DJI drones that do it for a hobby, people were pissed and they were talking about it. And one person actually suggested that maybe it's because they believe in the future civilians could end up using these if they're not controlled by the U.S., if there's no backdoor into these things by the U.S., that civilians could use this against our own country. If you think about it, as far as like drones and things like this, the damage that the tiniest ones are doing, like the first person ones, the tiny little, racing drones, those can basically have a grenade on them. It's pretty crazy to think like what an entire population that owns these things could do with them. So I just wonder if there's anything to that. I thought it was pretty interesting, other than just separating from China. But again, the announcement comes days after Russia itself announced its plans to change its maritime borders with the Baltic Sea. Lithuania's foreign minister responded last week, calling it an obvious escalation that must be met with appropriately firm response. So when we go back to that map, this is the Kaliningrad. This is actually Russia right here. These are the Baltic states they're talking about. Of course, you've got Estonia, Latvia, of course, Lithuania, and then Poland. All four of these, they want to put a border eastern front. So let's see here. Yeah, all along their Russia-facing border, and they want to put an entire, and it's not like a Great Wall of China. It's essentially these anti-drone measures all along the border. You have Poland, you have Estonia, and you have Latvia putting dragon's teeth, which are meant to stop tanks. It seems like they're preparing for an actual tanks rolling in kind of world war. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Dex, as far as the drone tech, the anti-drone tech, I thought they were still waiting on some of this stuff too, right? And it got...
Well, either way, nonetheless, I mean, look, the message is what matters. At the bigger picture, they're setting up for a conflict here. We've said it time and time again, and on one hand, you get the message from people saying that, oh well, Putin said he's not going to invade anywhere else. But if that's the case, why are they investing so much on this line, on the Baltic states? Why do they keep reiterating that it's the second, or the next front? That's what is so troublesome, because even if you think this is orchestrated, well, then there's your orchestration. It's going to happen there. They're telling us, get ready. This is where it's going to be. If you think it's organic, then, is one side lying and the other not? Are they doing it for other nefarious purposes? But nonetheless, the Baltics are heavily targeted right now, even by themselves, to say that they have to invest in troop movements, invest in, putting out this narrative that they're willing to join UKR immediately, deploying anti-drone systems and everything else right now. That's the big story, I think, is just we keep watching this space expand, and it's going to get hot.
Baron Saturday says they are sucking the fun out of drone flying completely. Yeah, it's been like that for a while. I remember before all this stuff went down, you'd go to start it, and it was like they just kept adding restriction zone after restriction zone. I used to use, you guys remember my older videos, I used drones for a lot of them. And it was one of my favorite parts about making videos, was doing the location shots of where I was. I traveled a lot more before CV happened, and then all of that mess. But it's like, yeah, they're killing it. As far as the prepping for a war, the majority of people around us, they don't know that all of this is happening. They're not following it day to day. There's 20 articles a day that I think that most people if they were able to get kind of the down low on all of them every single day, I think that's where people would be if they were like you guys, right? But your friends and family, they might catch 1 out of 15 of the really important articles of the week, and then the rest they don't. This is a huge problem. When all of this goes down, people are going to be completely oblivious. They're not going to know. I talked to several people over the weekend at Folklife, and it's really crazy how many people really don't know how close we are to a war. Now, I think there's a lot of positive people that say, oh, well, maybe it won't, but they really just don't. If they followed it closer, I think that they would be in the same place. Do you guys have the opinion? How many of you have the opinion that if somebody follows this extremely closely, like every single day from front of the paper to the back of the paper, do you think that people would be closer aligned with what you are thinking? And that's not just like one side of the news or the other side of the news. Both sides of the news are saying the same thing. Now, you could say the news is all fake news and it's one big op and all of that. But for those people, I would say, have you not seen how big an op can get? How many countries can be involved in an op? So if you think it's an op, that's even worse. Because there's a lot of coordination. Let's see here. Michigan, they would be in denial. Well, I see a lot of that, but I think it's more out of fear. But again, everybody's welcome to their own opinion about it. And then let's go over to NATO, Belgium, to where NATO headquarters. NATO chief backs calls for U.S. weapons to strike hard inside of Russia. Well, they're already striking inside of Russia. If you haven't followed, there's been at least 2 radar attacks on Russia's actual radar that prevents missiles from hitting Russia. This is the same radar that keeps Russia safe. Now, if this was the U.S., if they attacked our first warning and early warning systems, it would be World War III already. But this is again Russia. So there's been some really, really big moves. Now, of course, over the weekend, NATO Secretary Jens Stoltenberg backed growing calls within the alliance to allow Ukraine to strike inside Russian territory using Western-supplied weapons. Now, they say Western-supplied, but we already know from previous leaks and now confirmation by multiple leaders that the people that are running half of these weapons are actually U.S. soldiers or NATO soldiers. So if you have NATO soldiers pushing the button, firing a missile, and then, say, destroying a radar, early warning radar, and Russia finds out about that, that's a big deal. That's a giant deal. That is go time. It says, well, this has, without any doubt, has already happened, which I'm glad they said that, especially in Crimea and utilizing UK missiles in particular. The JB administration on the public level has at least maintained its prohibition against Kiev launching such attacks using US-made missiles. They don't say anything bad about it just being done in general. But if you remember, if this was a year and a half ago, people would be absolutely livid or freaking out if there was anything like this happening. If you remember, there was a time when they said, whoa, they can't strike into Russia. This is defensive only. But now it's to the point where it's just accepted. Subtly, they added one thing after another. Now they're striking inside of Russia on a daily basis. So if you are striking inside of Russia, that's an offensive against Russia. That's full on. That's not defensive anymore. That's taking out key locations inside of Russia. And the locations that they've picked, they're big ones. Radar stations and early warning radars, that's their defense. So that it's almost like that's what you would do if you were setting up for an invasion of their country. But the NATO chief in an interview with The Economist said the time has come. This is going to go down in history. I bet you right here to this comment. The time has come for allies to consider whether they should lift some of the restrictions they have imposed on weapons donated to Ukraine. To deny Ukraine the possibility of using these weapons against legitimate military targets on Russian territory makes it very hard for them to defend themselves. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry what he's saying here. He's saying they're gonna use Storm Shadow missile. It's saying, hey, say it's okay for Storm Shadows and other missiles to be used against offensive targets deep inside of Russia. Are they gonna hit Moscow? Like, this is definitely an escalation if they listen. Go ahead, Dex.
Well, and what we have to do is, if they do it, is let's see if Russia actually responds. They put the red line down, the new red line. They've had many of them before. But if they put that new one down that says if anything from the UK strikes inside of Russia's territories or inside of Russia's country, then they're going to strike UK positions. And they called them both inside Ukraine, but also outside of Ukraine, meaning I guess they could even hit, a UK base in another European location or even UK itself. I think it would strategically make sense for them to take out equipment coming in. So, but if that actually happens outside and it's in another NATO country, that's going to be a big deal. But that's the red line.
Tophers United says Ukraine. It's not an offensive. Ukraine is in a war. Of course, they're going to attack Russia. That's not the big deal. It's not Ukraine using the weapons that Ukraine built. The issue is Ukraine getting missiles shipped to them, then having a UK soldier, then pushing the button and firing. That is an involvement on paper, on everything else. I agree with you. It's a war. Of course Russia is going to get hit. But if you have a U.S. soldier standing there pushing the button to do it, that's a war between not just Ukraine. That's a war with the U.S. How all wars have worked, if there's 5 countries fighting side by side, all 5 of those countries are in an actual war with those countries. So if you have a U.S. soldier, whatever rank, pushing the button to fire a missile into Russia, that is a U.S. versus Russia war. You can't paint it differently. You can say, oh, well, they're there secretly. That's what I'm saying. Topher, I totally agree with you. Russia, hit Moscow, hit whatever you want, but call it what it is. This is a war between U.S. and Russia. This is a war between UK and Russia. This is a war NATO and Russia. They're not going to say this, and 6 months from now, 8 months from now, it's going to be. And that's where this is headed. That's why this is news from a prepper standpoint. I believe there's a 97% chance that we're going to be in hot World War III, because we're already in the financial side of it. We're already in the economic side of it, the trade war side of it. We're already in every other part of it. We're going to be in a hot war with Russia directly when they admit that we're in a hot war with Russia directly. I agree. Hit Moscow. Hit everything over there. Because it's a war. It's not just defense. If somebody's going to punch you, if 2 guys are fighting, you can't say, oh, well, that guy, I'm going to support that guy, but only if he just blocks punches and does some taekwondo and knocks everybody off, right? He's going to punch a throw back. Like, that's how a fight works. But if you have a fight where the guy is just blocking and then some other guy walks up and sucker punches him, then that's a different story. I mean, shoot, it's okay. And then Russia could have another guy come up and punch him too. That's when you get into a brawl, a full-on brawl. And that's what we're headed into. That's what we're already at. The U.S. is firing missiles. NATO's firing missiles. So this is NATO versus Russia. And that's what I don't think many are going to see until they officially say it. Everybody's waiting for the news to put out a headline saying the U.S. or NATO is at war with Russia. They're already at war with Russia. If you have a different opinion, let me know. I would love to hear your view on it. But how could you have a U.S. soldier or a NATO soldier pressing the button, however complicated it is to program these missiles, pressing the button, push and go, sending that missile, it hits Moscow. How is that not NATO versus Russia? And then Ukrainian strike on Russian nuclear radar system causes alarm in West for good reason. This is their early warning sign. This is what detects missiles the second they launch. This is the same system or similar systems to what we use. If Russia fires a missile, we know it's coming and we knock it out of the sky. If they took all of these down, Russia would be defenseless. You could take out every city in Russia with no worry about them responding with a nuclear war. A Ukrainian drone strike on a Russian radar station that can track nuclear missiles has sparked alarm in the West. Kiev hit the Armavir radar station in the Krasnodar border region on May 23rd, damaging the state-of-the-art facility which provides conventional air defense as well as forming part of Moscow's nuclear warning system. Now, if they had actual intelligence on what part of this, if this was a crucial part of it, say out of 6 different locations, they need 6 locations to detect a nuclear missile. If you hit these 2, then you knock off their system totally offline. If they had intelligence like that, if that was a hypothetical scenario, this is scary because this isn't a red line a country can let anybody go over. This is not a red line that you can ever let crossed over. This is like you could bomb 3 cities and this wouldn't be as bad as if they took out all of their early warnings. The only reason that Russia's a major superpower is because of their nuclear missiles, because of mutually assured destruction. So if you take out their ability to see ours coming, that's giant. Dex, I mean, how else could you look at that?
I mean, look, what other way could the U.S. say, you know what, hey, tomorrow I think we're going to take out their early warning nuclear detection system, nuclear launch system. I mean, we could literally launch Tomahawks in and take them out, but that would be a complete act of war and it would just trigger everything. But in this case, it's like, oh, well, we've got this proxy thing going on, so we can use that to do it. And when I'm saying this, I'm saying it from Russia's point of view. Like they're looking at this as like, hey, look at the West is leveraging the conflict in UKR to take out our early warning detection system. That's a big deal. And no matter, I'm sure that UKR, and they've got it in their narrative, they say, well, part of those radar locations can also detect, the launches that we're making in this area, especially towards Crimea and other locations. And they're saying they've got a reason to do it. But this is a very high profile asset and and it's very akin to, if you remember, even our administration was telling them, hey, stop going after the oil, stop taking out their oil refineries. It's not part of the deal. Like we don't need to disrupt the cost of oil across the globe just because you're in a conflict with them. There's other targets you can take out. If you take out their refineries, that's a problem. This is one of those things. It's like, hey, you probably shouldn't do that because you're taking it to a totally different level. And so the question is UKR doing it on their own, or are they doing it because the US is telling them to do it? Either way, if you're Russia, you're like, hey, this ain't gonna fly. Like this is a big deal. You don't take out our early warning detection systems. And if you do, then whoever's responsible for it, that's a major offensive. And it's in there, like you said, it's in their doctrine. A certain number of this type of activity can actually cause a nuclear response.
Now, it's Sean C. made a comment, says the big ass military is a thing too. It's not just nukes. No, you're correct, and people underestimate the fact that Russia has a massive military. They've spent half their GDP, even if their GDP is less than that of New York per year. They've still spent half of it on their military. That means they've literally devoted 50% of all of their money towards their military. Meanwhile, if you look at the last 10 years of our military, they've been cutting everywhere they can for whatever reason, I don't know. But as far as the big military, absolutely. I agree with you, but it wasn't always like that. At one point, it was the nukes. The reason why they became a superpower is because they came up with those nukes at that time. They might not have had the biggest military, but I've talked about how Hitler even said he was blown away. There's an audio of Adolf sitting there going, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. There was 35,000 tanks. Somebody told me that Russia had 30,000 tanks, 35,000 tanks, and I said, you're crazy. You're twacked out. You're seeing things. You're a nut job. And then he's talking to his constituent, and he's like, and then I saw him. I couldn't believe it. So Russia surprised Germany, completely blew his mind that they had 35,000 tanks. So Russia has always known that you keep some things secret. You keep everything down on the down low. Look strong when you are weak. Look weak when you are strong. The art of war. They've done this many times. They're always coming out with a surprise, something that's not expected. And that comes from the old ways of how they did war in Soviet Union. Putin said it multiple times publicly. He admires some of the great war leaders of previous wars and how they surprised people. Latest deadly weather in U.S. kills at least 18 as storms carve a path of ruin across multiple states. So I'm praying for all you guys that are out in all of these affected areas. I mean, it's all over the country that we've had over the last month, these crazy tornadoes, just crazy storm after storm, floods all over the place. And as far as the different storms, this is why a lot of people in our audience prep just in general, especially if you're in the Midwest and you have all of these storms. I just talked to one of my friends, their whole family and everybody is moving out to the Carolinas. And I said, that they're doing it because it's cheaper out there. I said, what are the downsides? And they said, well, the area they're moving to has a crap load of storms. It's like we don't have hurricanes here. We don't have tornadoes in Washington. But in some of these places they do. And I just keep seeing this every year, just crazier and crazier storms. And now we get a lot more footage of it because of cell phones. It's like I couldn't imagine living in like Tornado Alley or something unless you absolutely had to. But powerful storms took 18 people's lives, injured hundreds, and left a wide trail of destruction across Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas after obliterating homes and destroying a truck stop where dozens sought shelter. Now, they mentioned specifically that truck stop because there's actual video of the truck stop, which I believe went viral. I saw a small clip of it, and it looked absolutely insane. Were you affected by these storms? If you have video clips of this, send it to us at marfooglenews.com/playmyvideo. Again, that's marfooglenews.com/playmyvideo. All right, and then this is a video. I'm going to play this for you, and I just think this is crazy. And this is actually something I have pointed out to you guys a lot. And how, so listen to this. I'm going to put this up on screen. Let me see here. All right, so fair use in it here. Okay, so check this out.
This is the most insane example of how everyone is experiencing completely different social medias at the exact same time. Like, this video, my boyfriend said he'd be over by 3 after golfing. And, like, it's just her every half an hour taking a video saying, oh, he's still not here. And it gets to, like, 5 or 6 p.m. and he's still not here. Okay?
Okay, so first of all, the main video on here, not important. What this woman is pointing out is something I've pointed out so many different times. She's basically saying, look at the comments. The comments are, how many times have you said, look at this video, but you got to check the comments? How many of you, and let's do a quick survey, how many of you, when you watch a video, go straight to the comments and check what other people are saying?
I opened the comments of this video, and kind of as I expected, everyone was saying, oh, that's really rude, it's the disregard of her time, I don't like him. Did he communicate with you? If not, then that's a red flag. Okay, fair enough, I send this video to my boyfriend who was sat next to me, and then I said to my boyfriend, lol, look at the comments. Bear in mind, these comments were coming up at the top of the list. So as soon as you open the comments, these are the ones that came up for me. Tell me fucking why. My boyfriend opens the comments on his phone. Again, it's the first list of comments that come up. It's the same time on the same video. Or you could get your own hobby instead of waiting around for him.
Or you could get your own hobby instead of waiting around for him. I was in a group in front of him today. Sorry, we're so slow. Kept losing my ball. God forbid he has a good time. Basically, the woman watches this video, goes down to the comments. All of the comments agree with her. Her boyfriend opens it up side by side. He has a different algorithm, and this is not just TikTok. This is all of them. He opens up it, and it agrees with the way he would look at it. And she makes a great point here afterwards.
Like, God forbid he has a good time. He met before 3 a.m. He's ahead of schedule. No fucking wonder we're all so divided when you can look at the same comments on the... No fucking wonder we're all so divided when you can...
I mean, do people see this? Like, and this is a bigger deal than people think, like, as far as the comments on almost everything. Try this at home, and this is a great experiment. Try this with your significant other. If they have a separate, if it won't be on your account, it's got to be on their phone, on their stuff. I tried it with my wife, exact same thing. I tried it with my cousin, same thing. I tried it with my friend at Folklife. Every video, and by the way, I tried it with a friend that is completely the opposite from me, sees things exactly the opposite, very, very far to the other side. Exactly the opposite side of me. Every comment agreed with their thought pattern. And like she said, no wonder why we are all so divided when social media is literally what is creating and causing everything right now. And everyone is in their own echo chamber. This is why we try to break out of that. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, this is, what's interesting is this is what we saw with the feed algorithm, right? What they would call confirmation bias. When you would look at a feed of information on a social media platform, it would show you what it thinks you want to hear. They're taking it to the next level. They're taking that algorithm and applying it to comments. So they show you what they think you want to hear from the people that are talking so that they can basically give you one story and someone else a different story. They're moving these algorithms deeper and deeper and deeper into the areas in which we participate. So if you think about the design of this, and at the end of the day, they're spending millions and millions of dollars on these algorithms to be developed to do this. It's exactly what they want, and they're programming us on how to, they can either control it because they want you to hear a certain narrative, or maybe this is benign and they just want to make sure that, oh yeah, well, guys that watch this, we want to make sure they're enjoying the video, so we'll give them the comments that make them feel good, and girls that watch this, we want to make sure they feel good. But ultimately it's not really doing any good because it's no longer the true story of what's actually being commented. You're not seeing the comments maybe in order in which they appeared. You're not seeing them what's the most recent one. You're seeing what they're programming to you, and that's a scary situation.
And I don't know if you've noticed this on this platform, on the tube, you'll actually see, if you're watching a video, and I don't know if this is all on all phones, but you'll watch a video and it will randomly rotate through a top comment. It will actually show you a comment that relates to what they're talking about as you're watching it. I mean, it's not like we need proof for it to know that these comments, it has an AI that's relating the comment to the actual context of the video. Then it's showing it to you to reaffirm what you are thinking, to keep you on there. It's the same, like Dex said, it's the same algorithm that is on how it shows you content on the comments and what you think is the general perspective of the world. So this guy goes to this video, he's not going to go past the first 4 pages of content. It's all going to be basically people saying, oh, what's the big deal? He didn't tell his girlfriend he was going to be back, or he's 3 hours late, like, big deal. She watches it, how rude, that's a red flag. This guy's a jerk. He left you 3 hours there. They're the first 4 pages are catered to them. So you think the entire world agrees with you and everybody's thinking the same way, but it's actually catering that to you. And that's the scariest part. That's why comments are actually really important on videos. If you're a YouTube creator, it is actually really important to make sure that you go through those and watch them, because the people will not. I've tested this. People will not watch an entire video. It will be something in the title, this, that, and then the first person will not watch the video, say, oh, well, you said this and this and that. And then 50 people not knowing that that's not at all even in the video. That claim isn't in the video nowhere. people pretend they watch. They go to the first comment, and then they comment based on that comment, their opinion of a video they never watched. And I said this years ago. Now it's being applied. This is serious because when it gets to the divided part, they are individually catering all of you to make sure that you are hating other people and completely divided from the rest of the world. They want you in a little bubble. They want to be able to control you and pull on you like a puppet. That's why you got to step outside these things. That's why you have to actively try to get out of these kind of circles. It's really insane how trained everyone is. Even the people that are the most awake, they don't realize there's other areas where they're most likely just completely getting guided in a certain direction. Dex, go ahead.
Look, that you may not see that on one platform, but it is on all. It is either coming to that platform, or it's on the platform. I think the one she's talking about is Instagram, but the level of algorithmic delivery of information, especially on a high volume. I mean, if a video has 2 comments, it's not like they're gonna. I guess they could suppress them or serve up fake comments, but ultimately, when there's thousands of comments, they're using algorithms to then pick from there to give you what they feel like you want, or if it's something they want to control, then how they want to control the narrative. So this is happening on all the platforms, and if it's not on one you're messing with, it will be eventually.
Look at X. When you look at your own tweets or anybody's, it will say show other responses. You go to any tweet and it will say show other responses. I'm pretty sure you could go to this one and it will say show other responses. It hides certain ones or see offensive ones. Why do you think the offensive ones, some of them are like, oh, have a good day? It's like, what do you mean? Have a good day is not an offensive comment. But it hides that because it's putting you into this box. It wants your engagement. The same problem is happening with Call of Duty. This is a massive multi-billion-dollar game. It's actually the biggest, I think it's one of the biggest video game money-wise. It brings in so much money. It's up there with huge corporations. So it's bringing money into countries, right? I think it's the U.S. Call of Duty, everybody's done with Call of Duty now after years. I'm sure some of you played it 20 years ago or 10 years ago, whatever. Because they're doing engagement matchmaking. Basically just they're COD versus X-Defiant, kicking it with Timmy B, right? Everybody's talking about that right now. People are going over to this X-Defiant game made by a guy who used to make Call of Duty because now they've switched it to microtransactions. The same thing with the cell phone. You play a cell phone game, most of you have experienced this. It says, oh, buy some jewels, buy this, buy that, buy that. They're doing that to everything now. Call of Duty, it's engagement-based matchmaking. So instead of like how good you are, it's actually just matching you up and making you lose. They'll put you against like absolute world pros 3 matches in, so you lose because the algorithm and the AI is basically saying, hey, this guy is going to get off if he loses too many times, so we're going to throw him an easy match. And then if he plays too many matches and wins, he won't feel like he's got a challenge, so we're going to throw him into a world pro match. Or he's losing so many times, they'll throw him into a lobby with a bunch of bots or something. It's like this is happening to everything. And what's sad is we're so technologically advanced, but as humans, we are like, when they say we're sheep, it's just like we are literally being sheepdogged around. There's a sheepdog, which is social media, and they're just guiding us all. And it's a bunch of lemmings running around going, oh, I should think this. Oh, I don't think that. And people's responses are straight copy and pasted from other articles that they read on Now This or something. It's like people are literally copying other people's views on a question, and everything is turned into, if you ask this question, you give this answer. I mean, it comes down to like now the youth. It's like, oh, he's a Republican? That means he's the R word. It's like, well, is everybody just this impressionable that they just believe that? The last 5 years of accusing everybody of being the R word, it's just like all of these things are happening right in front of us. That's why once you wake up, you can't go to sleep, but you will have somebody else, social media will be pressing the snooze button on you, and it's hard to avoid. Mark Frigola, thank you so much for your support. I appreciate you. K. Parker Frazier, Sweating Ministries, thank you guys. I appreciate you. Azrael76, CMAC, thank you. FSRD, Stephen McMahon, thank you for the almost 400 that were over on X watching. Again, thank you for popping in. And let's see here. And if you can, make sure to go check out Energy. Of course, now there's a Memorial Day sale on that as well. If you want to get yourself one of the best solar generators out there, go to marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. It's one of the best modular and expandable solar generators out there. And again, this can be expanded up to 96 batteries. It's silent. Nobody's going to know you have power. It's great. If you need something quick and portable, or if you need an entire wall of batteries, you can do that with an Energy. Check out the Flex Tactical. It's the same generator that now has a contract with the U.S. Army under the STTR Phase 2 contract. So go check it out. The Army doesn't pick it because it's pretty or it takes selfies. They pick it because they want it to work and work every time. So go check it out. The only downside is the weight. Lithium is being battled over for the entire world over. And there's one country in particular that controls a giant chunk of the resource. So I would wait for it. It is worth every minute of it, rather than get something that can come on Monday that might be turned off on you remotely when you're not expecting it the day after SHTF. So go check it out, marfooglenews.com/energy. Thank you, Dex. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
All right, you guys, you have a wonderful night. Thank you. And again, I told you guys we would have you out of here by 9. So thank you. Thank you, your mods, by going over to marfooglenews.com/friends. You have, of course, a great list of people there, of everybody from Bones to Wages World and every great person in between. And not only that, a great list of creators that we've worked with and think are awesome people. Go check them out. All right? Go subscribe and support an independent creator. Thank you, guys. Much love. Be safe. Be prepared. And Marf out. I'll let you go. They sold their soul to the devil. He's never going to. By the way, guys, I'm just gonna play some of the top hits for the Shout Show. My voice is losing it. He's never going to. I'll let you go. They sold their soul to the devil. He's never. They sold. DANGER danger. How to make a banger. DANGER danger. How to make a banger. DANGER danger. How to make a banger. DANGER danger. All right, let's do it. A good one. Everybody knows that we were the chosen, left doors open, now we can close them. Along with the ocean, everybody knows that we